Okay. Welcome back to another episode of A Dose of Reality. How we feeling today, Amakhu?
Oh, we're feeling good.
Okay.
We're feeling good.
Good to see.
I'm back on the mic. I ain't been on the mic in a hot moment.
Yeah, people wouldn't even know that because of our release order.
Because you've been releasing me.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, but I'm feeling good. It's good to be back. It's good to be back.
I mean, me and Rachel were holding it down for you. How'd we do? I feel like we became the dream team.
The dream team.
That's how I feel.
I don't know about the dream team.
I feel like everyone feels that way as well.
Who's everyone?
Just people.
Nah. The dream team makes it sound like I'm not part of the dream team. And you guys are the dream team and I'm just some outsider. That's what it makes it sound like.
I mean, take it how you want to take it.
Well, that's how you're delivering it. That's how it is. That's what you're saying. That hurts.
I mean, I'm sorry, I guess, or whatever. Yeah, I guess. But we held it down, is the point.
I'm sure you did.
So
absolutely.
I want props. Can we get some props from you?
From me?
Yeah.
You guys did well. You did well.
That seemed a bit forced.
No, it wasn't. I meant that from the bottom of my heart. It was very good.
We're going to move on from this.
No, because
I don't want tension in this episode.
All right, no tension. I learned a lot. I was listening to you guys like, wow. Wow, these guys, they know some things. I was blown away personally.
Yeah,
right? It's just because you started it on the vibration of hurt, saying I'm not part of the dream team.
So it's on me.
Yeah, so that's what's in the air right now.
It's on me.
It's on you.
Let's move on.
Let's move past it.
Do you know what topic we're getting into today?
I've heard murmurs.
Murmurs.
I've heard rumors.
Okay, it's a good one actually. I feel like this is going to be a solid one. But before we get into it, actually something we haven't said in a while. So I want to throw our tones out there. There's some who are new to our channel. So just a reminder, Nahun athe mudras mun kan uru shalal pamun bab mun kan ur.
Right.
We are student teachers of the master teacher.
Yeah. Nice. That flowed as well, man. It's good to hear our tones.
It is.
It's a reminder. We got to speak our tones more.
We do. We really.
But yeah, important to let them know. As we always do, we stay humble. We acknowledge where we're getting our information and outformation from and who we are. We are just humble student teachers. Nothing special. No one in the scheme of things. Well, we're someone.
Yeah. Feel like, yeah,
someone.
Everyone's someone.
Everyone's someone. Well, not everyone.
Do I mean that?
Nah, because I've seen some
people like, why do you exist?
Yes.
Contribute nothing to this.
No place, no purpose, no presence. They don't do anything. So
is that a little mean?
A little bit. I mean, it's a little bit mean. Yeah. No. Most people are somebodies. We all have a role to play. In this world,
we're all part of the all at the end of the day. So
there you go.
We've achieved that. If nothing else, if nothing else, you are part of the all.
Yeah, and some people achieve nothing else other than being part of the all. So, yeah, I don't know why we're going in.
We're just going on a tangent.
Yeah.
Let's start today's episode.
Start the episode. Let's go.
Today, I mean, I want to talk about Africa.
I heard the murmur. See how.
I didn't get the memo.
That's where in the top because
even though I kind of threw the subject out there, but yeah,
should have came representing.
I should have next time.
It's too late now.
Yeah, but yeah, I want to talk about. We've seen a lot going on in Africa, and most of last year we were covering the revolutions in Africa or the so-called coup d'états.
I like that first word. I like that revolution.
I prefer revolutions too. They're not coups, they're revolutions.
Right. They like to use the word coup, but it's not a coup.
Yeah.
Okay. Taking back what's ours.
Indeed.
Right.
So, with everything we're seeing going on around Africa, and, especially West Africa and places such as that, it poses the question, is Africa on the rise? Because many would argue that. But let's get into it. Let's do a bit of analysing.
Okay.
And see.
We can do that.
Yeah. Is Africa on the rise?
Is Africa on the rise?
That's the question I'll throw out there to start our episode.
Yeah, I mean, this one is interesting as well because I first of all, if it's a short answer, I'm saying yes, Africa is on the rise. But what I do acknowledge is that it's not straightforward. It's not a constant and consistent rise. There will be obstacles, barriers. There will be knocks that are taken during the process, but we're in a transitional phase. And I definitely think if you look at Africa obviously Africa's a big place, and that's the thing as well. There's a lot of countries in Africa. It's a huge amount of space, if that makes sense. So never to forget that. But yeah, if you look at some of the different African countries, I think we're seeing positive signs. Africa, we know, and as well, again, since you started the episode on using our tones, in our culture, we say Afafreye Ka U, which translates to those of the sun spirits. So instead of Africans, we say Afafreye Ka U. Okay, because, you know, that word can tie in to some other things, and you do get the word police that come after you if you say the wrong word. Be like, nah, that's not our term. We don't use that. I'm like, yeah.
I got the word police coming from me the other day for saying black. I just like everyone can relate to that term. Relax.
Yeah. Sometimes you're just trying to put a message
sometimes
across.
You're just trying to get your point across.
Yeah.
There come the word police.
There come the word police. But yeah, so we know about that word. So, but we've always known that this place has always had great potential. That's a well-known fact. We've always had great potential, whether it's the land, the resources. The people. We've always had the great potential. Now it's always been a case of, do we control that potential? Do we control our land? Do we control our resources? Do we control our people? So on and so forth. And
that last one.
Yeah, well, there you go.
A deep one.
There you go. And the answer for the majority of this last age of existence has been no. It's been straight no. So that's why what we're seeing is potentially positive signs, because the revolutions that you've seen in Mali, the revolutions that you've seen in Niger, the revolutions that you've seen in Burkina Faso are all potentially positive, because what you have there is perhaps, let's wait and see how certain things play out, the taking back of that control that is necessary to elevate us in that sense, because it's all about, do we control ourselves? Are we free, so to speak? And so that's why we've seen, and that's why I think it's important to use the correct words when things happen. What Burkina Faso done was a revolution. Niger did, it was a revolution, because when you read about the word coup, it's an unlawful and violent seizing of power or something to that effect when you look at the definition. And they throw in that term unlawful as though what they've done or what's been set up beforehand was lawful.
Yeah, was colonization lawful?
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go. So who's making the laws? Which laws do we abide by? So certainly from my perspective, I'm looking at it like, yeah, we've seen positive signs. So we might see what goes on in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. To that extent, we might see what's going on with the birth rate on the continent in general. Then we also have to acknowledge what's happening in Congo. We have to also acknowledge what's happening in Sudan. So we have to acknowledge the good and the bad from what
Ethiopia too.
There you go. So you have to acknowledge the good and the bad, which is why I say it's not a straightforward rise, so to speak, and people are still going to point out certain things and say, hey, what's going on there? But I think in general, when you look at the picture, obviously as Sabaeans, we look at it a few different ways. We know it's the sun cycle. We know the sun cycle has begun, so we know it's our time. It's literally our time. We know change isn't a snap of the fingers, but we know it's our time, and so we're transitioning now into that time. So when I look at Africa on the whole, I look at some of the African countries, some of the fastest growing economies in the world are in Africa. I look at the people. I think we're starting to free ourselves of the shackles that have been placed upon us. There are so many different types of shackles that were placed upon us. And I think the continent in general is starting to understand that we have to control what is ours. We have to control what is ours. So if I was given a simple answer to that, I would say, yes, it's on the rise, but that rise won't be simple. We're in a transitional phase. And so it will take time, and it will take battles, and it will take courage, and it will take a complete absence of fear, okay? Because you're talking about a revolution. You're talking about a planet that has been hell-bent on keeping us oppressed and exploiting us in order for the benefit of themselves other than our own, is what I mean. And so we have to acknowledge that fact.
Yeah.
And therefore it's a battle that's required in order to rise again. But certainly, yeah, I think if you look on practical terms, again, we go back to the episode Fall of the West. We spoke about the fact that Africans are being born and Europeans are dying. That in itself is an indication of what's happening right now. Things are transitioning. So if you look historically, whether you deal with empires or reigns or rules, they always end. They always end. Okay? So whatever is happening at a particular point in the cycle will not happen forever. So when you talk about the rise of this empire, the rise of that empire, they will always end at some point. And what we're seeing right now is the end of a so-called empire. That makes sense, in the beginning of a new age of existence. So yeah, to sum it up, yes, I think Africa is on the rise. And I think there are a few different things you can look at if you're looking carefully, if you're watching what's going on. You know, the important, what I would mention as well about like Burkina Faso, for example, and there are good or bad things happening. We don't want to skate over that. But what I like is that since the revolution, that hasn't been the end of it. It wasn't we done it. We performed a revolution. We took control of our land, and then we just sat there. You know, we've seen progress. We saw the speeches by the president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore.
Yeah.
We saw what he has in mind. We saw that his mentality was exactly that we need to control our resources. Then we saw him tell the French to leave.
Yeah, it seems like they had a plan.
Yeah, it was thought through. It wasn't a sort of, we're just going to take power. It wasn't based on that. It was based, no, we're thinking through, we're thinking about the future of our country, because you can see by way of what's happened next. They told the French to leave. Now they're dealing with factories. Now they're dealing with gold refinery and making sure that they can, mine, the mining factory that they recently opened. I think that was at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, I remember seeing the videos.
And they're looking to have certain things done by the end of this year. So you're seeing progress. You're seeing them build. You're seeing them start to collaborate with other countries. We spoke about Ibrahim Traore and Putin standing next to each other. Putin standing there like, yeah, my brother. We spoke about that. So they're making moves on a global scale. They're trying to align themselves in certain ways. So you can see that whether you agree or disagree, you can see that there was a picture, there was a plan, there were steps involved. It wasn't just let's seize power for the sake of seizing power. It was a case of, no, let's seize power because our lands and our people and our resources are being exploited. We need to stop that exploitation in order to raise the standard of living. So when you talk about is Africa on the rise, it's literally that. So that's just an example. I certainly think it is on the rise. I think it will take some time. I think there are some obstacles in the way. But I do think when I speak of Africa and Africans, I like to not just speak of the continent, but Africans worldwide, anyone of our people, no matter where you are on the planet, whether you're in it.
Yeah, when we're talking about Africans, generally, we're talking about all those of African descent.
Yeah, exactly.
Even us in the diaspora. So we're talking about Africans worldwide.
Worldwide. You're in Africa, Europe, the States, doesn't matter where you are, because we're everywhere. Worldwide. I do think, yes, we are on the rise. We're waking up. We're starting to take back what's ours and break free of the shackles that have been placed upon us. But I think it's a gradual change, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the point you made about it's going to take time is an important one, because some things are hard for us to fathom in our mortal state. So in the scale of things, we don't live very long lives. So we're looking to see change within our lifetime, basically. Right. We're looking for it all to happen like bam, bam, bam.
Bam, bam.
That's a lot of the types of questions we used to get in class, teaching Q&A class. Well, when? How long? How long is this going to take?
Right.
But, it's like in the scale of things, it's really not taking that long. We got a nature, it moves on a whole different time to us. So sometimes we're looking for it to happen in our lifetime to its completion, but it will take time.
Yeah, it will take time.
Especially the state we've been left in.
It's been a pretty poor state, and we always have to remember that in the scale of things, even this last rule isn't that long. Even the time that Caucasians have been on the planet isn't that long. In the scale of things, when we're talking about how long we've been here and how far back you can trace our roots in Africa and so on and so forth. So everything is scale, but yes, we live finite lives at the moment, very finite lives, not just finite, but very finite. And so we're looking at it like, nah, I need to see it tonight. I need that change you spoke about this morning. I need to see that tonight. And so, yeah, it can lead to frustration or a incorrect analysis of the facts before you, because you're looking for something big and huge at that moment, and it might not be that way. It might be a change that's gradual. So if you analyze carefully and you analyze certain things going on the planet in different places, I don't think you will conclude otherwise. I think you'll conclude that not only are we on the rise, but that which has oppressed us is falling. So
that's a good point to make too. It's a good point to make too. Okay, so we've touched on what's going on in Africa, and we mentioned Africans worldwide.
Right.
So let's get into the mind state of our people. So I want to throw a question out. I have in my notes here. But yeah, what are some of the main things or principles that you can think of that can help African people worldwide free themselves?
That's a good question. Principles. I think fundamentally, I've always said, and I think Baba Yaanuwn has always taught, and a few others as well. Everything starts in the mind. So when you're dealing with us raising ourselves or us freeing ourselves, I think it has to start in the mind. And so I deal with mental shackles. I'd always talk about some of the mental shackles that are placed upon us, because mental shackles are even more powerful than physical shackles in a lot of ways. So I'd look at the mental shackles. One of the first things I always point to is that I think spiritually we have to free ourselves. We have to free ourselves spiritually, which means that we shouldn't be subject to any other religion that belongs to any other group of people or that came after us, came after our creation. We need to plug into our own culture, our own way of life, our own vibration. And we shouldn't be worshipping other than our own image. We just shouldn't be. And for me, that's a crucial mental one. I always go there because no other group of people does it. And there's a reason that they don't do it.
So what's the reason? What's the importance of never worshipping an image other than your own?
Well, the psychological impact of worshipping other than what looks like you is devastating. Because what you're saying to yourself psychologically on a subconscious level is that I'm not worthy of God-likeness, but that person over there that looks that way. That's God-like. And the subconscious effect of that means that you're always going to have them higher than you. Whether you realize it or not, you're always going to visualize them as higher than you. And so there's a reason that no other group of people on the planet do that. They don't worship other than their own image, because your God, who you worship, must look like you in order for you to understand and overstand, not only fundamental, because we can talk about it from a spiritual perspective, like what is real. When you go into the spirituality of our people, where we come from, our gods or overseers or watchers or angels, we can talk about the actual facts. They are us. They look like us. We are in their image, they are in ours. And then you talk about the psychological implications of saying that, someone who is white is God, of worshipping that white Jesus or that white God, and failing to acknowledge your own ability or someone's who looks like you's ability to be that God. Okay? And so there's a reason that they've flooded the world with that image of white Jesus, even though in their very Bible he is described differently. There's a reason, because they understand the importance of that image. They need to place themselves above all others, and so they need to have everyone who is oppressed by them worshipping that image. It's part of the mental enslavement. If you're worshipping that image, that is a branch of the slavery, and arguably the most important branch in that sense. So you have to acknowledge that when you visualize yourself as God, or you visualize yourself as a good person, or you visualize yourself as a potential lawyer, doctor, whatever it is, inventor, that aids you in becoming that. What you think is what you become. And so that whole principle is well known, and that ties into what you visualize, surely ties into what you visualize as your God and the image of God. And that's why it's so crucial, and that's why no other group of people do it. You won't catch, we talk about the Caucasians and what they do behind closed doors, because they know the truth. They know who came first, and they know what happened. But you won't catch a Chinese person worshipping a black person as their God, even though we are everyone's gods because we came first. Okay? Hindu religion, so on and so forth, Christianity, Islam, okay? They'll try and steer very clear of worshipping other than their image. And to me, there's nothing really wrong with that. We can deal with the facts of, we came first. So in that sense, where everyone's God because we came first. But someone having their own culture or religion where they worship an image of themselves, to me, is no issue. The issue comes when if someone's practicing their culture over there or their religion over there, worshipping their own God, doing what they do, and someone's doing the same over here, and someone's doing the same over there, and someone's doing the same over there, there's no issue. The only issue arises when one of those groups get up and decide, you know what, my God and my religion is so special and so powerful that I need to go over there and force them to worship my one. And I need to go over there and force them to worship my one, to the point where you force them, and generations later, now anyone who amongst that group of people that have been forced and subjugated, anyone who rises up amongst them and says, hey, hang on a sec, these aren't our gods. This isn't our way of life. They're the problem. They're the blasphemers. Yeah, they're persecuted, forgetting what was done generations ago. And so to me, worshipping in your own image is no issue. Even if we can go into the religions, the Christianity, the Islam, the Judaism, and so on and so forth, and point out flaws and misconceptions or contradictions, even if you can, someone fundamentally worshipping that which looks like them, to me, is no issue. And especially when we deal with facts, which we can go into another time. To me, the issue in worshipping other than yourself, especially that which has been opposite to us and done so much to us, oppressed us, put us through so much, and now we're worshipping that image. Yeah, to me, it's crucial, and it's a fundamental flaw in the psyche of us as a people. If you're still doing that now in 2024, to me, that's a problem. Because even the books that you claim you're so devoted to don't describe the character as such. So if you're still worshipping the image, then yeah, to me, that's a major problem. So to me, it's important that it's just important that you have your own image to look up to and your own people to look up to. Just the same way you should look up to your parents, or it's important to have people around you that you look up to and admire. It's the same way that even beyond that, it's important to have, whether it's your religious figures or your spiritual figures or your prophet figures, whatever it is, to look up to and say, oh yeah, that's me. I can see myself in God. I can see myself in an angel. I can see myself in a hero. I can see myself in a good person, because that plays a big role into what you're going to become, or what you have the potential to become in your life. So to me, it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, that's a deep one. Especially being able to, well, everything you said, but what rung out to me is being able to see yourself as a good person as well.
There you go.
For so long we've been portrayed in movies as the bad people.
Yeah, either the bad person or the irrelevant person.
Yeah.
Person that doesn't really matter what happens to them. They die first, whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They've used religion to try and do the same thing as well. They've used religion to try and convince us that white is holy and black is deadly, so on and so forth.
Yeah, we need to get into that at some point.
So they've constantly been telling us that, and black and white by colour scheme are opposites. So automatically, if you've declared white to be that which is godly, you've declared black to be that which is devilish. And we fell for that for a long time. And the sad thing is, I've spoken to people that on both a conscious level and a subconscious level do believe that. Whether it's subconscious or whether it's conscious. People conscious, consciously, this is what we are. We're this, we're that. That's the power religion has, or the power of oppression has, and so on and so forth. So to me, it's important. It's important to know that we are special. We are the original people of the planet. We are the root race. We are gods. We are capable, the originators, so on and so forth. It's important to know the facts about us so as to help us become those things again, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What are some of the other principles?
So what's that? That's worship your own image.
Worship your own image.
I would say, I would say as a group of people now, as a people on the planet, we need to understand the law of opposites. There's a good book, actually. I'm always going to say good book. All of Bubba's books are good. But there's a book called Who You Are, Not What You Accept.
Oh yeah, you were speaking to me about that one earlier.
Who you are, not what you accept.
It's been a hot minute since I read it, but yeah.
Read it again.
You inspired me, like, I'm going to pick that one back up.
Yeah, Bubba goes in. Bubba Yaanuwn goes in on that one, and he doesn't hold back, and he really makes a clear perspective on that. And like I always said, read Who You Are, Not What You Accept, and Interrogate to Integrate Ingredient. That's another book.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good one.
And Who You Are, Not What You Accept is really the concept overall in the book. Bubba's literally explaining that. He's explaining that it doesn't matter what title you take on, whether you take on the Muslim title, whether you take on the Christianity title, whether you take on the Jew, whether you take on the Moor, whether you take on the this, whether you take on the that. It really doesn't matter. Who you are by nature is always going to be who you are. Your vibration as that original group of people on the planet, whether you use the term Africans or Fafre, Kau, and Artones, whatever term that is who you are. So even if you take on an Arab religion, that doesn't change who you are. Even if you take on a European religion, that doesn't change who you are, and so on and so forth. It doesn't matter. Who you are is who you are. And he's trying to get us to understand that concept and how they've managed to poison our minds against who we are. So now we're no longer proud to be who we are. We'll claim to be anything other than who we are. No, I'm a little bit mixed with this. Nah, I'm a Muslim. Nah, I'm Indian. Nah, I'm really Latina. Whatever it is, you'll try and claim to be something other than who you are. Right? Because, and Baba in that book, he explained, it's because it's psychological damage. No one's proud. You're not proud to be who you are. But he said we have to claim that pride and remember that there are many things to be proud of, even regardless of what we've been through in this age. So I highly recommend that book. What he also mentions in that book, why I mentioned the law of opposites, is that he wants us to understand this particular law of opposites, that direct opposites cannot be equal in the same place in the same time. One thing that we have to accept and acknowledge about us, our standing on the planet, is that you have Africans, our opposites are Europeans. Europeans would never accept equality with us, because if they accept equality with us, that's them leaving us alone, us leaving them alone, and seeing where we stand, and they can't survive. They need us to survive in different ways, whether it's our land, whether it's our resources, whether it's our genes, because although our genes are powerful enough to kill them, their genes are weak, which is why we spoke about the birth rates the other day and how they're dying faster than they're being born. They always understood this concept, which is one of the reasons they mixed with us in the first place, but don't mix all the way. Again, read Interrogate to Integrate Ingredient. It explains they need to mix with us to keep their genes strong, but if they mix too much, obviously we'll overpower them. And so it's explaining that law to understand that when the state that we're in is a direct result of that, there's no point going to them and trying to ask them to act right. There's no point protesting to them. There's no point trying to convince them to treat us right. They are doing what they do by nature. And when I say they, we talk on a
majority level.
On a scale, right? Yeah. So it doesn't mean that you run into individual white people and they're going to be chasing you down the street for your resources. It doesn't mean
like Jonathan Majors.
Yeah, like Jonathan. Like Jonathan
he was
Majors.
running for his life.
He was running for his life. That woman was chasing him. She was like, "Come here," and we saw where that led. But so because what a lot of people struggle with is they struggle with this idea of accepting the realities, because in their everyday day-to-day life, especially if you live somewhere in the West, you're interacting with all different kinds of people. In London, you interact with all different kinds of people, including white people.
Yeah, it's a melting pot here, and generally your day-to-day interaction is fine, so that can leave people under an illusion that everything's fine.
Yeah,
especially in the UK, people love it's covert racism over here. People love to act like it don't exist over here.
It's covert. And so I remember having conversations with people 10, 15 years ago, and they was telling me racism was gone, and white people was fine, and everything was cool now, and we're all going to live in harmony for the rest of time. And I was like, "Are you sure? Are you sure about that?" So it's accepting that even if even if Karen from HR treated you okay yesterday, that doesn't mean that on a whole Europeans are treating Africans okay. And so we have to understand the global nature of what's taking place here. We think because our everyday interaction may or may not be bad, some interactions are still bad, some are good. We think because of that should somehow rob us of racial loyalty or rob us of our loyalty to our own people. Like, no, it was fine, it's okay, it's fine. We have to understand that the Europeans have oppressed the Africans, have exploited the Africans, colonized the Africans, because they understand that they cannot survive without that exploitation. So you cannot survive without negating that exploitation. Okay, and it's as simple as that. So we have to understand as a people what exactly has happened here. We have to understand who we are. We're the original race, we're the soul race, we're that creative race. We have opposites. That's just a fact. All the way down to our symbolism. Okay, what do we wear? We wear some form of ankh, which represents to different levels life. What do they wear? They wear some form of cross, which literally represents death. What happened on the cross?
Jesus died.
Jesus died, apparently.
He died, I guess.
Yeah,
We've
apparently.
been missing ever since.
Yeah, it's never come back. Never come back. So even when you look at their religions, what Baba explained as well in that book, Who You Are Not What You Accept, in Nuwaupian's Ontologies of Time, is that a lot of their religion is about death and about fear of death. Okay, behave well, because when you die, you want to go to heaven with God and not to hell with the devil. So behave well. It's all about, that's the vibration that you're on, because that's the vibration of this age of existence that we're coming out of. We are a people of life, a people of soul, a people of energy, a people of emotion, a people of compassion. Okay, we are the opposite, literal opposite of what has taken place in this large age of existence, which is why we have suffered the way we do. Okay, so with that being said, we have to accept we are their opposites. Okay, so plug in to your nation, plug into your people, care about your people first. There's no shame in that. Care about your nations first. There's no shame in that. Look to build and work with your own first. There's no shame in that. Love yourself and your people the most. There's no shame in that. And we have to fully understand that and understand that when you take, I think what happens to a lot in our perspective of what's taking place on the planet personally is that because we're emotional people, we don't fully understand what's been done to us and what they continue to do to us, because we're like, nah, they couldn't do that. Or nah, it's okay now. They're better now. Nah, it's cool. If you take the emotion out of it, you'll see fundamentally Europeans do what they need to do by nature. They want to rule all others and they want to survive. And both of those things require that they dominate the African. So that is why they dominate them. And that is why they will never want to give up their power, even if they try to create the illusion that they have, because they understand times are changing now. You can't do things as deliberately as you might have done them a couple of centuries ago. So now it might have to be a bit more stylish. But that giving up of the power is not something they want to do. France didn't want to leave Burkina Faso. They didn't want to. Okay, they didn't sit there and say, you know what? Yeah, we got to stop. Okay, they didn't want that. By nature, they want to dominate. They want to control. They were given that nature by their gods. Ironically, they want to rule. And so when we understand and we understand that, we'll begin to see, okay, well, we have to accept that and build for ourselves. Stop trying to integrate with them. The book, Interrogate to Integrate Ingredient. What Bubba's breaking down in that book is he's saying, when they suddenly offer to let you win, whether it's let you win to certain levels or let you into their industries or integrate with you or mix with you sexually or marriage or so on and so forth, it should be an interrogation from our perspective rather than an integration. That's what that whole book's about. Ask them why. Why, if you hated us yesterday, do you want to fuse with us today? Ask them why. What's going on? Ask why you suddenly see all these adverts with interracial couples. Just ask the question why. We know there was a time, and people say times change, but you still ask the question why, given the nature of what we've seen.
I think that's an important point to make, because I've always had a problem with that, because people will, put forth that we're living in a different day and time, and, times of the past was due to lack of education. Like with education, that's what will overcome racism. But it's like racism was never there due to ignorance. I've never agreed with that as a notion. Like suddenly white people got up like, I realize now you can't treat people as subhuman. Whoever had to be taught that?
Well, exactly. But there you go. And that's another point that he makes in the book, because he says what we like to think that they suddenly just turned good and there wasn't economic and business decisions made. What he points out in that book is Abraham Lincoln. I hope we can get out the quotes. Maybe we'll throw up the quotes from the book on the screen. But we at a time, certainly, we love to talk about how he freed the slaves. And Bubba explained in that book, no, that was a business decision. It was all about business. It wasn't because he thought Negroids were equal to the white man or to the white people, to the Caucasians or to the Caucasites. It wasn't that. And in that book, he gives you direct quotes from Abraham Lincoln, where he's clearly racist. It's not it's not up for the discussion.
I remember.
It's like saying things like, Negroes can never be equal to us, really, and we can never let them in, and it's clear that there's a difference. So it was never a case of him being like, nah. But you make business decisions. So study the history of that, the South and the North and all of that whole clash there. And so we love to kind of run with the idea that suddenly they woke up one day like, you know what?
Racism's bad. I see it now. And that's not to say you're not going to find individuals within their people who are better spirited, maybe nicer people. That's not to say that. We're saying as a whole, they understand that they have to dominate
us as a people in order to maintain their quality of life. They understand that.
I want to re-emphasize the point you made. They will never allow for us to exist equally in the same place at the same time.
Okay, so we're always going to be on some level subjugated to some level of oppression when you're adhering to their system or when you're in their system. And when we fully understand that, no matter how much you like Jasper or how much you like Karen.
It's always Jasper.
Yeah, Jasper's always getting it. As a whole, they understand power. And so they're going to keep power amongst themselves. They understand that. And to be honest, it is their methods, we can always say, over these last few centuries have been devilish, of course. But the want to hold something for yourself, I don't necessarily disagree with them trying to do that for themselves. What I disagree with is us going to them for handouts now. Okay, we've been through a certain age, but now we have to build for ourselves. Now we have to understand that we're the originator, we're the creator. And it's them that need us and not the other way around. And it's no hate. You don't ever go out to hate. You don't ever go out to hurt. That's not what we do. That's not what we should do. But we understand that it's time to plug into ourselves. Okay, so this is what, people do things and protests, don't get me wrong, they have their time, they have their moment. There's been some historic moments throughout history. But the idea of asking them to modify their system to accommodate us is flawed. It's flawed. We have to build our own system. We have to build our own nation. At some point, we have to say, this is ours now. And we know we're fully capable of it. Okay? We know we've built great civilizations in past times. We know we had Black Wall Street. We know we had Traore. We know we're capable of it. And we know they're scared of it. Because every time we do it, what do? Find a reason to strike it down. So they're scared of it. So you understand that when they talk about, we're superior, we're doing what we're doing. If that was the case, they would have, if they really believed that, they would have left us be. They would have left us be. But they understand every time we start to do that, they're like, whoa, what's going on there? Bomb it.
And that's an important point to make. White superiority is rooted in insecurity.
It's rooted in insecurity. Because if they really felt that way, they would just leave us be.
Yeah, like they're never going to do it to the level we do it.
Yeah, so let's just
let them try.
Just let them try.
No, every time, that's what they truly fear. Us building a nation of our own.
There you go. And there we have a book called A Nation of Our Own. And where Baba says, literally, give them back everything. Everything they've ever given you. Just give it back. And don't feel a way about doing that. I don't know why we feel like that's a problem or that's a bad thing to do. Their education, every branch of their system, their speeches, their people, everything. Just give it all back. Their certificates, their clothes, their food, every single thing, their religion, just give it back and say, let's go back to what we were doing, because we've been on the planet for a long time. And how insulting is it to suggest that for that entire time that we existed, we didn't know how to connect with God or the higher power. We needed them to come along. We needed Christianity. We needed the Bible, which is no more than a few thousand years old, where we go back a lot further. We needed that to really connect with that which is beyond this realm of existence. It's highly insulting, but we don't realize it because we're locked in the faith. So yeah, I think understanding the law of opposites, understanding the nature of what's happening fundamentally, economically, how the resources, just fundamentals, and how they won't ever want to give that up because they understand that their world, their lifestyle, their quality of life is built upon that exploitation. They wouldn't be where they are today if they hadn't exploited. That's just an actual fact. I've been seeing the other day, I think, was it this country? Britain gave something back to Africa.
Oh yeah, was it like a lock of a prince's hair?
Something, yeah.
Was it a prince?
Was it something?
Ethiopia or Sudan?
Yeah, that was in a museum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And people were happy, like, yeah, good time. I'm like, what? Everything they have is stolen.
Everything in that British museum is stolen.
It's stolen. And so it is a fact when you deal with the British, they have very little of their own. That's just a fact. That's something I speak about with other of our own, other Africans or black people. That's something I speak about with other cultures who aren't black people. They'll say, oh, but yeah, British, the English, they ain't got nothing. There's nothing of their own. Everything they have is stolen. It's stolen. You can trace back every cultural representation or so-called coat wear, whether it's the dress, crowns, and so on and so forth, the designs, you can trace it all the way back to Africa. They've copied everything. They've stolen everything. That's just a fact. So I'm not getting excited about them giving back one thing back to the museum. Like, yeah, this is a sign of it. Give everything back. But if they give everything back, what do they have? Absolutely nothing. And that's why they don't want to do that. And so we settle for small little wins. Like, yeah, they gave that back. It's a sign of the time. Come on. Come on. So yeah, understand the nature. Not the law of opposites is one I would study. Read that book. Understand the nature of what we're dealing with on a global scale. It doesn't change how we treat individuals. It doesn't turn us into bad people. It doesn't turn us into hateful people. Everyone we meet, we treat nicely. Jehovah's Witness came to the door today. White man. Nice conversation, shook his hand at the end. In my head, I was like, you have no idea, but nice. Absolutely fine. So everyone we treat people nice. We're not devils like what we've seen in this last age of existence. So we need to maintain our soul and always have that compassion. But we need to understand that what has happened, and it's been proven. And the Baba explained, the judgment is made. What they are is what they are. That's decided. Now we need to build for ourselves and understand that going to them looking for crumbs or looking for this or looking for change or looking for accommodation is a flawed concept.
Yeah, I agree. Before we move on to the next point, I just wanted to hone into a point of, I feel it's important to have compassion for others, but I want to make the clarification that having compassion for others doesn't mean you plug into their tribes in life, doesn't mean you plug into what they've got going on. Because I feel a lot of us do that. We're like, oh, well, we have to have compassion for others, so we got to support everything every tribe, every race is going through. And that's how you get depleted of your energy and you have nothing to give your own race. Yeah,
that's a natural fact.
I think it's fine if you so choose to show support for others. But it's like we always say on the airplane, innit? You got to put your mask on first before you can help anybody. We got to make sure we're okay as a people before we're plugging into every injustice of the world. Yeah,
and that's a natural fact. You got to make sure your mask is on, and our mask ain't been on for a moment. So we got no business putting on masks onto other people. No business at all. And that's a natural fact. I think that was one thing that was highlighted in what's going on in between Israel and Palestine. I saw a lot of us screaming injustice, and I understand it because it is injustice. I can see that clearly. Anyone can see that clearly. You can't really watch babies getting bombed and sort of say that's cool. Everybody understands it. We've seen the scale of the deaths. We've seen we need to go into the story actually because it's a significant story, the history between Israel and Palestine. Maybe we'll do that segment later on today. So I understand it, but I'm like, if you knew about that and you didn't know about Congo, if you then knew about both and you were still posting about that and not posting about Congo, for example, or posting about Sudan or Ethiopia or Haiti or any of the different tragedies that we're going through, then I question that. I have to question that. I have to. And to me, it's not to compare tragedies. Not at all. It's the actual fact that we have to take care of ourselves first in order to get out of the plight and the state that we're in. We have to. That just is what it is. And every other group of people, I guarantee you, they understand that. They overstand that.
They know that principle.
They understand
that
principle.
They absolutely do.
So you think they're coming to our aid if their mask isn't on? You think they're coming to our aid if their mask is on? In a lot of cases. And so, but we are and I get it, we're such a feeling and compassionate people and we're so affected by certain vibrations that we see something and we're like, whoa, we're also plugged into their world, their media. So we're letting them decide what's important for us. Whatever they post the news on, whatever you see on your social media channel, that's what's important to you. Sometimes you have to say, you know what? No, my people.
Yeah, and you have to make that active effort to know.
There you go.
Because I think I was talking to... maybe it was my uncle, and he just genuinely didn't know. He knew of Palestine, but he genuinely didn't know what was going on in Congo. Yeah. So in mainstream news, if you're plugged into that, you may not know. So it's an active effort, what's going on in Africa?
Exactly, and that's what I'm talking about. It's that active decision making. It's not about criticizing or judging what people do know or don't know. Completely understand that. Sometimes as well, you're so busy, you're only going to know what's told to you. But we as a people need to make that active decision to say, you know what, I care about my people first. And therefore my actions are going to demonstrate that. I'm going to be looking to find out what's going on with my people, looking to find out what's going on over there.
It goes back to we've been turned against who we are.
Yeah.
So our energy is sort of kind of working against us. We're not tuned into ourselves as a people.
There you go. And we do need to tune in. We do need to remind ourselves that we matter. And it's no crime for you to matter the most to yourself. We take care of our family first, right? So same should apply to our people.
Yeah, exactly that. So to recap, because we're on like some key principles.
Yeah, key principles.
That will help Africans worldwide to free themselves. So you spoke of we need to worship our own image. We need to under and overstand the law of opposites. So we gave some detail on the law of opposites.
There we go.
Okay, so that's a little recap. Any more principles?
I think, I think what we need to also do is maybe understand the fundamentals of nation building in that sense, in terms of, I think naturally the skills to build a nation will manifest in us as we free our minds and as we start to plug away from their system and so on and so forth. But I do think we need to understand fundamentally how crucial it is to build for ourselves and what the fundamentals of are of that nation, to have your own school, to have your own hospitals, to have your own agriculture system and shops and your own source of food, and then leading on to not even leading on, but including your own culture and spiritual practices. And I think it has to be understood that that nation of our own is crucial. So it kind of ties in a little bit to what we've said already, because I think sometimes what we do is we seem to think that integration and changing of their system is the way forward. My opinion is that that's not the case. The way forward is to build our own system, our own nation, and the foundation of such a nation must be that which is of us, our vibration, our culture, our language, our tones, our food, our hospitals and banks and our own systems even in place in that regard at the foundation. And I do think that will start to happen naturally. I do think we're starting to see the signs of us taking back enough control of certain resources and so on and so forth to say, we're building this and we're going to build that and we're going to build that. But fundamentally, I do think it's valuable to learn a bit, just to do a little bit of practical reading on what is required to build a nation. Okay. And the first thing I think is required is to give them back everything. It's to give them back everything so that you can build your own nation and that your nation is yours. And it's not just their nation in disguise. If that makes sense.
That's very true.
Yeah, so that's what I would say. Try and understand some of the fundamental principles of nation building. As a Sabaean, I'd point people to a nation of our own. But I think just in general, read your books, understand the principles of what we need to do in order to have that which is ours. And we have done it before. It's not a thing we haven't done before. We've done it plenty of times before. Even in recent times, we've done that on different scales. So it's important to acknowledge that. Those are practical things you need to learn, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess two things come to mind. One point is financial literacy. I've been seeing a lot of conversations surrounding that, because a lot of us in this day and time as Nagara people, those of African descent, would be new to money. Because it's been stripped from us from quite some time. So you have that saying, new money and old money. So a lot of us, when we come into money, don't know what to do with it, how to scale things up. I mean, whereas, even those Europeans or those of Caucasians who then come into money would have more of a blueprint of what to do, because it's more laid out that way within the system, that they get the aid and help they need or the education.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've been seeing a lot of conversations about becoming financially literate amongst our communities. So I think that is an important one as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Having a more long-term mindset as well. So, often because of the state we've been in, we're looking for that short term. We're just looking to get that quick buck. And get going. But we need to have a more long-term mindset and a less selfish mindset as well.
Yeah, which I was going to get into, because we've been seeing conversations about generational wealth, but it's kind of just being thrown around now. So we need to get into how realistically, how we actually going to set that up.
Yeah.
And I think selfishness and greed is a big thing that has been holding us back.
Right.
Because people come into a bit of money and they're like, rather than, we don't have big picture view. So people come into money and they want to keep it all from themselves. They don't want to use that money to make more money because they're scared of losing the money.
Yeah.
So we don't build that way. And then people fighting over money.
Yeah.
People stealing money
for
things of that has been an ongoing thing in our communities of, we look at it like, well, I've never had this amount of money.
Yeah, exactly that.
It has to be mine.
It has to be mine. It has to be mine because of what we've been through as a people, that when we get it, we don't think clearly.
Yeah.
We don't think clearly, and you're exactly right. You have to be real about it. Yeah, we money turns us into something else, or does it? Or maybe it exposes that which is somewhere within.
Like you said, power exposes.
Yeah, power exposes. But you see some of the some of the devils come out when money is at stake, or when money is on the
on the line.
So therefore, yeah, it's something to know. I think you have two different sectors here. You have people who are just literally, that's just what they're going to do. They're going to abuse and do whatever they need to do to get money. That's just all they see. And then you have people who, like you say, maybe don't have the education, maybe don't, and we're damaged as well. So we do have a situation where, because we haven't had money, if we get a bit of money, we're going to be like, yeah, this is mine. I need to keep it. And that mentality can stop us from making more money, can stop us from growing, so on and so forth. You need to have a slightly looser perspective on money, and the willingness to use that money to grow, not only itself, but then do you have the compassion to use that money to help your people? It's the question that I always throw out there, but it's clear to me. What I would say is that on the whole, we need financial literacy, as you say. We need to understand money. We need to know how to make money. That's on the whole, because a lot of us could have a lot more money than we do. That's clear. Or could hold a lot of more money than we do, or could keep, rather than thinking individually, could keep money within the community a lot more than we do. That's the fact. We know how fast we spend outside our community. We just, I'm going there to someone else to buy this. Okay, part of that is to do with, are we producing? But I think a lot of us are producing. Now we have to focus on living for, of, and by each other, and purchasing and selling to each other. So there's that, but there's also the fact that, when you deal with the whole freedom thing, I think this is an important step. But one thing to note is that if our freedom was just about money, I think we would be free. Because on the whole, we got money. On the whole, we got money. I'm not saying we have money that others have, but we have money, right? There are rich people among us. There are many rich black people. So if the mentality, and I'm not saying that it should be on them, I'm saying, but if the mentality was such that, yeah, my people that matters, if the position they were in was such that they could freely care for their own without fear of whoever signs their check coming down on them, then we would be, if that position really mattered, we would be free already. Okay, so it's not just money in that sense, it's owning our own stuff. It's being rich in other ways than just, remember, money is really their creation in that sense. It's being rich in other ways. So if we have a system whereby all our people are eating and we're producing our own food and we're producing our own clothes and we're living by our own way of life, whether money is involved or not, that is fundamentally what is needed, because we have money. But most money is controlled by that system, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so when you're rich to that degree, are you free? Are you even more of a slave than the average person? That's the question you ask. So you see people living what appear to be lavish lifestyles, but the moment that it comes to stand up for their people, the moment that it comes to build for their people, they're just invisible. They're just invisible. You telling me we ain't got enough rich people? You know how many, I take it here. We live in the UK, right? I just go one industry. We're in many different industries. I go one industry, the football industry. Football. I always got to make that point because I know we got American listeners. Football.
Soccer.
What they call soccer. Football, right? What? We got football players earning 100, 200, 300,000 a week, right? Many players in the Premier League are black or of African descent or whatever you want to say. So you're telling me fundamentally we shouldn't have 25 schools 25 banks. So fundamentally, the money is there. Okay, the question that we would ask ourselves is, if they came together to make those moves, what would happen? What would happen? And that's why perspective
money get cut off fast.
Yeah, suddenly it's like, he wasn't playing well. He's out the team. What? He was the top scorer. No, he wasn't. He wasn't playing well. Yeah. Whatever needs to be done. And see, this is the problem as well. Not to cut as well, but we fight battles that don't matter in the large scale of things. One of the major battles that has been fought over here in terms of the football is the say no to racism, and the racism of the crowds, maybe of the commentators, and so on and so forth. Certain things have been addressed. We had a situation where, if anyone knows football, they'll know we had Luis Suarez, a player from Uruguay, who liked to bite people. Not kidding you, but he also racially insulted another player called Patrice Evra, who was a French but black player of French nationality, so African descent. We had a case where we had the former England captain, John Terry, who racially insulted Anton Ferdinand, who was a black player. And when things happen as a result of this, we see victory. When people are punished, I think Suarez might have got an 8-game ban. I can't remember if it was for the buy-in or for the racial. Might have been he got a ban for each one, different ban. He was moving wild. I think John Terry might have got some sort of ban, so on and so forth. And we see it as victory because we see it as some sort of acknowledgement. Oh, yeah, we belong here, so on and so forth. Meanwhile, the racism continues. Meanwhile, it just simmers along and does what it does. And where it's more effective to say, no, you know what? Let's just do our own thing. Let's build for ourselves. If you're going to stick to football, where's our football league? If we're gonna build, where's our schools, our banks, our hospitals, our stores? The money is there. The money is there. If you right now, as a footballer, earning a lot of money, I know there's different things at play of your lifestyle and so on and so forth. But some of these footballers could buy a store, that store go bust, and next week they just buy another one. The type of money that you're earning. So the finance itself, to me, is not key. It's the mental freedom and the understanding. Not to say it's not key, but it's not as high as the mental freedom and the owning of whatever it is you do. If that money is actually yours and you make it, it's yours. It belongs to you. You're generating it. You're not getting paid by other than yourself.
Yeah, I remember someone saying, as long as someone else is paying you, you're not truly free.
Yeah.
They could cut that off.
Yeah, like that. Like that. So how could you ever be truly free if someone else is signing your check? You can't really be, because it means at any moment, if you do something that they don't like, that check's gone.
It's so true. So I think we're kind of touching in because we have an episode plan called "Are We Truly Free?"
Right,
that's it. Right, that's coming up. So I feel like we can delve in there. But I remember having this conversation years ago where I must have been talking to one of the brothers within our tribe, because he was putting forth that the problem is we don't have enough money. And I was like, my standpoint was like, no, the problem is our mentality. Because there's been points at times as us as a people, we've had money. That's clearly not the problem.
Yeah.
Everything you've just highlighted.
Yeah. Exactly that.
We don't have a self and kind mentality. I've always thought that's our fundamental problem.
That's our fundamental problem. And there's different reasons for that. And people in different positions will cite different reasons for that as to why they couldn't work with their people and why they couldn't do this and why they couldn't do that. Maybe some are valid, maybe some are invalid, but the reality remains the reality. If there's a lot of communities right now, 50 million could land on their laps and it would cause nothing but chaos. Nothing but chaos. Are they fighting over the money? Is someone trying to steal it? Are they spending it on parties and cars and women and jewelry? What are they doing with it? But, so that guarantee, you throw 50 million at certain people of a certain mindset, and that 50 million be gone like that. And no one's free. You didn't create not one institution that could help your people. You didn't create not one movement that could help your people. You didn't do not one thing to help your people. We know this because I'm throwing out that random number, but add up the money that we have and it will far surpass that. So we know this. The money is there. Fundamentally, what we have is a lot of people who aren't plugged into the race for whatever reason. A lot of people who won't do for self and kind for whatever reason. I'm not even criticizing. I'm just saying what it is. It is what it is. Okay, and so we have to surely get past that, before we can ever be truly free as a people, and never fall for what the picture is that is given. If people are earning a lot of money, it doesn't mean that they're free. It doesn't mean they might be more enslaved than you are. They might just be. And so you have to remember that. Who's paying them? What institution are they a part of? What did they have to adhere to? So on and so forth. And so a lot of that applies to some degree. Everybody is working a job to some degree. And everybody's like, snap, I might not be able to do certain things because I work this job. That happens all over. I'm a teacher, work in a college. And so you have to have, at any moment, somebody within that institution could look and say, hey, what did he say? No, we can't have that. And so you have to have the certain bravery and not only the bravery, but the love of your people to say, no, I'm going to say whatever I'm going to say if I think that this is what my people need to hear, or this is what I want to share with my people. And a lot of people aren't going to do that. And this, right or wrong, who knows? If you got to get that check to take care of your family, I can't tell you, but do I think it's required as a whole? Absolutely. I think we have to plug out of their system, and that's going to require sacrifice and courage. So yeah, it's just my thoughts on it.
Deep.
That's my thoughts on it.
Let me check my notes, see where we're at. So I want to get your reaction to something. I mean, we've been speaking about religion anyway, so this kind of ties in.
Right.
But our good brother, Dr. Umar, he's been doing a bit of a podcast junket recently.
Dr. Umar.
So he said something pretty interesting. I wanted to get your reaction to it. So this is what he said in a recent interview.
Okay.
He said, our people are very religiously immature. Despite the great works of the Nation of Islam, there are brothers and sisters who would never join it because they don't agree with the religious beliefs. Our Hebrew brothers, they do some good works, but guess what? There are people who will never join them because although I like what you're doing and I want to be a part of it, because of my religious affiliations and the religious immaturity of black folks, I'm never going to get down with the Hebrews. I'm never going to get down with the Nuwaupians. I'm never going to get down with the gods on earth. I'm never going to get down with the Nation of Islam. I'm never going to get down with the Moorish Science Temple, because although I love the works they do for the people, at the end of the day, you are fundamentally a religious order, and since your religious beliefs conflict with mine, I can't get but so far into what you're doing.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so that was what he said.
Yeah, very interesting. I think that sounds familiar, actually, like I might have seen it as well. And if I recall correctly, I think the context of what he's talking about is that religion divides. I think that's kind of the leading up context, if I'm correct. But yeah, the quote's interesting. I think fundamentally, yeah, he's correct. First of all, Dr. Umar, good brother, great speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, knows how to capture you.
Knows how to capture the people.
Pull you in.
I do.
So yeah, and he's one that's always been, yeah, Nuwaupians as Nuwaupians or Sabaeans, as we're called. We've always been cool with Dr. Umar. We've never personally met him, but I remember years ago he was down with the Detroit Nuwaupians. I think they might have done security for him, and it's always been cool. It's always been cool, and yeah, and fundamentally most of what he speaks on, I think, is not only powerful but needed.
Pertinent.
Yeah, it's pertinent. It's very pertinent, and yeah, it's a very good speaker. So fundamentally, what he's saying there, I would say I agree. Yeah, I would say I agree. I think we do have religious immaturity on a whole as a people. Obviously, we're in that list that he listed off. I think it was right after the Hebrews.
Don't
So,
do us like that. But anyway.
yeah. Well, all right, but fundamentally, I understand from an outside perspective. If you're not a Sabaean, if you're not Nuwaupian, I understand that. But yeah, I think, yeah, if you deal with the fundamentals, I think we are religiously immature, if that's the terminology, and you see that in a lot of the ways we behave, because fundamentally, just the fact that we put our religion ahead of our people is an issue. Whereas a lot of cases I've dealt with trying to speak to or trying to build or talk about our people with those who are religious, and all they want to talk about is Jesus, usually white Jesus, but Jesus and God, and he'll save you, and so on and so forth, and this whole deal. So that whole area makes it, for me, difficult to build with a lot of people. What I would add to it is that I think from our perspective as Nuwaupians or Sabaeans, the way that Baba taught us over the years was to equip us to be very inclusive and diverse, at least with those who we work with or talk with. So even the fact that we walked through those schools of religion, that we walked through Christianity, that we walked through Islam, that we walked through Judaism, that we walked through even the Sumerian school, so on and so forth, gave us the knowledge and equipment to go out and dialogue with all these different groups of people, diverse groups of people. Mm-hmm. And fundamental, something Baba always wanted is, he's like, the very fact that he did that is a testament to the fact that, no, he's like, I need to reach all my people. And some of my people, we can't get away from it, are deep in these religions. So if I'm going to pull them out, I'm going to have to walk through a school that raised them to a certain level and then graduate to the next school, raise them to a certain level and graduate to the next school. And within that method, you can see the methodology allows you to reach all these different groups of people, where these are where our people are and have been. You can't get away from that fact. So that is what I would add to it. I say, well, from a perspective, one thing you would say about us as Nuwaupians or Sabaeans is that I don't like to associate us with religions, and we in general don't like to associate with the term religion, because the religions, you get a certain vibration when you say religion, and a lot of what we've built upon was built upon first Baba Yaanuwn giving us the facts and telling us, go there, check it out, check it out, check it out, check it out. And then most importantly, giving us our culture, which traced back to our original way of life. And so my thing to religious people has always been, and you get different groups of religious people. My thing to religious people has always been, but it's just so clear that we predate these religions. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't you just go back? Even if you go to the story and you say, yeah, but this person was black and they lied about this character, so on and so forth. Why wouldn't you just say, you know what, let's just go as far back as we can, because the further back we go, the closer we get to our creation, and therefore the closer we get to God, or that which created us. And so I look at it from that perspective. It's not, but everybody and different people do different things with the information. That's what I will point out and acknowledge, is that, you know, when you've pulled a lot of people out of religion, as Baba Yaanuwn has, it's not to say that you got rid of the religious mindset immediately, right? So a lot of people have a religious mindset, even if they are not in religion. You have a religious mindset. I describe the religious mindset as one of the fundamental aspects of religious mentality, is that you're waiting for something. Mm-hmm. You're waiting for Jesus. You're waiting to be saved. You're waiting for the white man to act right. You're waiting for the system to treat you better. You're waiting for your leader. You're waiting for someone to go and do the hard graft and everything will be okay. You're waiting. You're constantly waiting and you'll never do it. The only thing you're doing is putting your hands together and saying, please, can you make this happen? And so that religious mentality of waiting has different levels. And so it does, just because you've come out of religion doesn't mean you've got rid of the religious mentality. And so I think that's important to acknowledge. But fundamentally, the teachings themselves from Baba Yaanuwn, he made it clear, I'm not a holy man. I'm not a holy man. We deal with facts. We deal with culture. We deal with the spiritual realm, of course, but we deal with facts. We deal with culture. We deal with methodology. There's always foundation to everything we do, foundation to our rites and rituals and so on and so forth. And so in him educating us, he created a group and by design of student teachers who are able to go now and dialogue with that other than Sabaeans. And so one thing I fully understand is that not everyone is going to become a Sabaean. You know that we never claimed, certainly here and in our classes, to be preachers, to be converters, or to be judges. We're just teachers. We're just student teachers. We've learned this and now we're teaching you. What you do with that is up to you. Whether you join the organization is up to you, but you're welcome here. We obviously have to have things which we are doing as a tribe, but you're welcome here. We can collaborate. We can do this. We can do that. And that's what we had when we were running our class for all those years. We had people who were coming. There may be collaborations. There may be times that we show up to their event to support them. They're not Sabaeans. We'll show they're running an event. I'm running an event. I've got stalls. I'm doing this. Can you come down? We'll come through. We'll support. We'll represent ourselves as Sabaeans or Nuwaupians, but we'll come through and support. No issue working with our people, regardless of whether they're from a different organization, whether they're not affiliated with any organization, or even if they're religious. But what I would add to that concept is that, because if we're stemming from the point of view of religion being divisive, absolutely it is. Do I think that us as Nuwaupians and Sabaeans are separate to what I would class as the religious division? I would say yes, but I understand that I'm speaking as a Nuwaupian and a Sabaean, so someone outside may say, oh, you would say that because everybody says their one is so on. So I understand that. But I think fundamentally what we have to understand about division, and it's one of the questions that I have, one of the questions I really want to ask Baba. When it comes to division, division is unavoidable. And what I mean by that is that if you make a stand, chances are there will be division. Okay? And let's take Dr. Umar, for example. One of the stances that he takes is that no snow bunny hopping. No hopping on those snow bunnies. No white women. Yeah. Period. There, when you say that, when you declare that, there is a good chance that once you've declared that, you create what you might term as division, or you lose a lot of people. You didn't lose me. I'm on board. I'm on board.
But that's true though.
Our women only. But my point is that anytime you make a stand, right, you go ahead and say.
No, I was just going to add a quick one. I was just scrolling, saw this quick video of someone reacting to Dr. Umar as a black guy. He was like, it was the same thing. Yeah, I can agree with a lot what he's saying, but I can't get on board with this anti-interracial stuff. Yeah. So yeah, in that sense, it's a division.
It's a division, if you like, but not a negative. Don't get me wrong at all. Because I've heard people, this is why I say it's mostly based on emotion, which is why I agree completely with the religious immaturity concept. Because when religious immaturity is based on emotion, isn't it? No, it's not. But illogical emotion. It's not my God, so I don't want to build this school or do whatever. I don't want to go to that. I don't want to help them. It's not my God. No, it isn't Jesus. It isn't this. No, that's not how it should be done. It's based on those types of emotions, which may be based on a whole system of fear and faith and whatever, but it's based on emotions. And it's the same thing there, for example. Because the snow bunny hopping, and I only smile because we've seen some funny interactions based on when he goes on the podcast and he said, or the Breakfast Club or whatever it is, and he says, yeah, no snow bunny hopping, and you get the reactions. You maybe even get people on there like what's his name? What's the DJ's name? DJ Envy, arguing with him and saying, no. A lot of it based on emotion, but I haven't heard anyone present an argument to the logic of it in terms of the plugging into your people, in terms of the economic contract that he speaks of, in terms of the fact that once you pass on, everything you've accumulated is likely going to go to her and her people. I've never heard. I'm not saying yay or nay, because my position on this has always been, for me personally, it's always going to be African, someone of African descent. When I speak to people individually, I never tell them, you should do this or you shouldn't do that. But if the topic comes up, I'm honest. I say, yeah, our people, because that's the representation that I want to give. I want to create an African family or a black family. I want to support my people. I want to be plugged into my people. I want to do for my people. And I just think it's very difficult to do that whilst being married to someone else, to someone of another group of people. I think it's very difficult, but I never say yay or nay. So that's not the point I'm making here. The point I'm making is that as soon as he takes that stance, people are going to drop off or have a reason to say, oh, I can't get on board with that. I can't, I liked what he said there, but I can't get on board with that because of this. And so, therefore, you understand that every time you make a stand, every time you take a stance, there lies the potential for what you could term as division, or there lies the potential for someone to say, I can't get on board with that because of this. And you have that with every organization. And so that has to be acknowledged in terms of, well, it's always going to be that. Now, then what separates that is, well, if we need to get a job done and you can do it and I can do it, am I going to let my religious affiliations stop me from doing that job with you? And I think in general, that has to be, hey, no, we can work together to get this done if this has to be done. But there are different situations with that, because even in business, you have to you have to question if I'm a 50-50. It's the same way that I would question if I own something 50-50 with a Caucasian, and that person has the ability to take his half of that company, for example, and help his people to the detriment of my own. If that potential is there, then that's the same question I have to ask if I'm working 50-50 with another black person, but that black person is not for self and kind. I have to ask the question at least. It doesn't mean you don't work with them. It doesn't mean you should, but if they're not for self and kind, then you have the potential to fuel something that either doesn't aid your people or even can hurt your people, depending what it is. I'm speaking very generally. But we always understood that once you take stances, you create division in that sense. And so we try and have the mentality as student teachers where we're like, no, what we have to do within reason, who we have to work with, it's all good. If you're our brother, you're our brother. If you're our sister, you're our sister, regardless of whether you're in our tribe or not. It's still the people, the race, so to speak. It's still looking out for our people first, absolutely. And the message that we give as student teachers as far as who we are as a people is for everyone. At this point, when we're speaking on the podcast, we speak about a lot of different things. A lot of student teachers or a lot of people of the tribe will know most of it or not. There might be things that we help them out with. There might be things that we remind them of. But a lot of the message is for those on the outside who may not be familiar with the fact that they're a god, or they have the potential to be a god, or that they're of the original root race, or the abilities that they have, or the great things that we've done as a people, or the flaws that we have as a people, the things that are holding us back, the things that are stopping our freedom. They might not know. So you try and speak out to people. And so it's never a case of saying, oh, because of so-and-so, I'm not going to get down with it. I remember we did an event actually once where we spoke, and we was there with Nation of Islam.
Yeah, I remember that.
See if the editor can put up the picture right now of me. There's a picture of me right next to Nation of Islam.
Yeah, I think I'm there too.
Yeah,
somewhere.
Yeah. So what the point is that certainly on my trajectory, I agree fundamentally, because on our trajectory, we've always had the outlook. We are who we are. We represent who we are. We're proud to be who we are. We're proud to be living by way of the original culture of the planet, the culture that's been given back to us. We're proud. We're proud of that, and we should be proud of that, and we should scream that from the skies. We're proud. We're proud of this. We're proud of that. We're proud of our culture. We're proud of our dress. We're proud of our dance. We're proud of all our ways. We're proud of our language. Because you opened, pardon me, because you opened the episode with our language. We want to speak it. We want to be amongst our people. Nothing wrong with that. And then outside of that, you say, but of course, we'll work with you. Other African or black organizations that are doing something can ultimately this benefit the people. Yes. If it can, then yeah, why wouldn't we? And so, but the main place that I find personally have found that inability to work or to really work to build a race has been in religions like Christianity, and people who are deep in the Jesus will come and save you. Deep in the God is the love of life and Jesus is my first love. Deep in that's the people that you can't work with. Try if you want to. If you're trying to build for your people, you try and work with. Those are the first people to condemn you to hell if you're not a Christian. I've lost count of the amount of Christians that I've spoke to with that mentality. There's Christians that I spoke to who don't have that mentality. I'll make that clear. Mm-hmm. But Christians with that mentality, deep in there, Jesus loves you. Jesus is the only salvation, so on and so forth. So if I don't believe I'm going to hell, yep. So the main factor in determining what religion I practice is probably where I was born on the planet. Likely if I'm born over there, I might be a Hindu. Likely if I'm born over there in Arab land, I might be a Muslim. Likely if I'm born here, I'll be a Christian. I might be a Buddhist if I'm over there, so on and so forth. So you're telling me that this all-knowing, all-powerful God placed me in the place on the planet where I wouldn't be able to worship him, and then now is going to condemn me for that? Yeah, absolutely. They're going straight to hell. And you're like, well, there's no hope. There's some mentalities that you just can't work with, which is why not only this is why I say that this is the question I have. One of our fundamental principles that Baba always gives us is love and unity is the key, right? And sometimes I'm like, absolutely. And then sometimes I'm like, well, who do we unify with? Who do we unify with? Because these devils are everywhere and they're popping up and they're in all kinds of places, claiming to be about that love, claiming to be about that work, but that's not what's in their heart. That's not what's on their soul. And so you always have that. And so you're trying to maintain that love, and you're trying to maintain that unity, and it becomes difficult. in certain aspects, because you're like, well, that person over there though, I can't unify with what they're about. It's very to me, it's a nuanced discussion.
Very nuanced.
I'd love to get other people's thoughts on it as well, but I think sometimes, when you look at it all, one thing that Bubba always says is that he says when the meteorite's in the sky coming down to hit the planet, you might see some unity then it's really not gonna matter who's who and who belongs to what religion or tribe or culture. You're gonna be like, snap the meteorite, what can we do? Okay.
Facts.
But also I've found that on the journey, sometimes whether you call it division or separation or drawing the line, sometimes that's necessary in order to discover who's really with you and who isn't. How else will you know who the enemy is? Because we've been through this, and we speak a lot about us as a race and us as a people, but I don't want it misinterpreted. Not all kinfolk, not all, what's the term?
Not all skin folk are kinfolk.
Not all skin folk are kinfolk. So we know that amongst our people, we have devils. We know this is a fact. Baba Yaanuwn wrote about this many a time ago. He said it's his biggest problem in saving us is the black devil, so to speak, who are here with us, chanting with us, praying with us, going to class with us, building with us, so on and so forth. But in their hearts, they have signed their soul over already to the devil.
They have a pact with
They have
the
a
devil.
pact with the devil. He explained that's his biggest problem as our warner and reformer. And so you understand that it's not all about color like that. It's not like, oh yeah, if you're black, let's do this. So now you have to be able to draw lines sometimes and say, okay, I'm separate from them over there because of this. I take this stand. Whether that stand is as simple as I love my people first, they don't. So there's a line, there's a distinction now between us. That division or that separation is sometimes necessary for you to know who's really down, who's really with you in that moment. And that just is what that is. It does no condemning. If they're over on that side of the line, to let them do what they're doing. I'm over on this side of the line. I've got to do what I'm doing. And you need to have that. And so if you're constantly trying to avoid that division, so to speak, I'm using that word, avoid that separation, I don't see how you make real progress. At some point you have to make a stand and say, I'm doing this and this is what I'm doing and this is what matters to me. I can't do everything. It doesn't mean I'm condemning them. It doesn't mean I hate them. It doesn't mean any of that, but this is what matters to me. So I'm going to do this. And when you start to do that to higher and higher levels and you draw the certain lines, you make your stances, you make your stands, you make it clear in this world, there will be people who drop. I'm not on board with that. And you have to decide whether you're still going to maintain that path. So yeah, very interesting quote. I think on the whole, I would agree with the quote. I do think we are religiously immature. I re-emphasize, great speaker. Enjoy watching him speak on this podcast or whatever it is. Listen to him at different moments and different times. And fundamentally, I agree. I would just add certain things to it, if that makes sense. And if, that's a quote and that's taken from a segment, so we don't know what else he would go on to say or would have said or so on and so forth. But that's what I would add to it. And so to me, it's not easy. It's not easy trying to find your way through this. Well, what do I do? But yeah, we have to try. We have to try and work with each other. And we have to try and not let certain lines stop us from working to each other. And that's a principle that Baba Yaanuwn's always been. He's always taught us different ways, different information in order to equip us to go over there and do that, to go over there and do that. And then he will tell us the stories, the symbolic stories of the fact that there was a time where the Nadaru, our overseers or our gods, worked with the Draconians, what you might call a devil race of extraterrestrials. You might term it that way. But there was a time where they had to work together to do something. And so we understand that principle. And if the love for your people is absolute, you'll do what you have to do for your people, whether you individually like it or not. So I hope that helps. That was interesting. Got me thinking. Got my brain churning. Yeah, I'm churning as well.
Got my brain churning. So many points of views. Such a nuanced thing as well. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'd like to get some other views as well on it, because I think it's an interesting topic. Very, very
I think we will at some point. Very interesting topic. But how we looking? We might.
You got to wrap that up.
Yeah, we might wrap it up for today. Yeah. I feel like we got some solid.
Yeah. We went on for a while.
Some solid conversation there.
We did. Good questions.
I liked that topic. Is Africa on the rise?
I think on the whole, just to sum it up, I do think Africa is on the rise. And I do think we have to focus on ourselves at this moment in time. It's so crucial. And as harsh as it may be, certain other things are distractions. That's what they are. We have to focus on self. We have to focus on our people. We have to love our people first. And I do think inevitably, yes, we will rise. I don't think it can be stopped. I think it's happening, and it will continue to happen. Even when we get the knocks and the setbacks, I think it will continue to happen. This is all by design, but we have to do what we've got to do. So to answer the original question, yes. Yes, I think Africa's on the rise.
For sure.
And Africans worldwide are on the rise.
Yeah, in every aspect. And everyone should seek out that article about the number of Africans will triple, I believe, by 2060.
Yeah, in the next few decades.
So if we're increasing and they're decreasing, I mean, we're going to be a vast majority on the planet. It's what we do with that, but I absolutely agree.
Yeah, actual fact.
Absolutely agree. But yes, I want to thank everyone for listening. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. What are you waiting for?
Doesn't make sense.
You know you love us.
Yeah, just...
You can't get enough of them.
Click the button.
Click the button, click the bell, and we'll be right there with you weekly.
Yes, we will.
We will.
Yes, we will.
But yes, for any audio listeners, you can catch us on, I was going to say all, but I want to say most, all your main podcast platforms. And if you're ever there, leave us a nice review. We got a nice review on Apple Podcast the other day. I was like,
It's a nice little review, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And the person was like, so glad to come across your podcast. I was like, oh.
It's a little boost in our steps. Like, a
little bounce.
Let's do this.
Let's put more content out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can catch us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all those. So give us a follow and leave a comment. Comment on your thoughts on is Africa on the rise and anything else you would like us to talk about. Let's get the conversations going. We love a good conversation, don't we?
Conversation, yeah.
We love to talk to all different types of people and get perspective.
Different perspectives, different views. We're all for it. People come on and give their own view. Yeah, it can get exciting sometimes. Yeah, we like that.
Keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, spark that conversation. Yeah, that's what's happening on TikTok. So I like TikTok, man.
Yeah, there's so much conversation going on TikTok. I love it.
Indeed.
But we will see you all very soon. But until then, farewell, wadu.
Farewell and wadu.